A warning that more than 500,000 people could be worse off because of changes to disability benefits. On this Monday morning, good morning, very good to see you. There is a warning that up to 600,000 people could be worse off because of changes to the way disability benefits are given out. The changes are being introduced in the north of England today. The government claims it will save billions. Siobhan Robbins reports.
Stephen Sumpter has ME and diabetes. It means walking is extremely painful and leaves him exhausted. Previously, to get disability benefit, he had to prove he was unable to walk 50 metres. But that's changing to 20 metres. It could mean Stephen loses half the money he gets and the subsidised car he relies on.
It means every single trip to the shops and to the doctors will turn into maybe 3 hours of effort, and that will leave me in bed, exhausted and in pain for days afterwards.
There's no doubt in my mind that the government is motivated by cost-cutting on this issue. The government has already announced how much the disability living allowance budget is going to be reduced. They've already announced how many people are going to lose disability living allowance. And then they're introducing a test which is going to provide them with the results that they want to reduce those costs. It's not right, it's not fair.
The government is used to opposition to cuts as it tries to reduce the country's debt. Almost 500,000 people have signed this online petition challenging Ian Duncan-Smith to try to live on £53 a week following changes to housing benefits. Like the other welfare cuts, the government is defending the changes. It says disability living allowance was out of date and untargeted. 50% of claimants got it by simply filling out a form, and 70% got a payment for life without systematic reassessment. But Stephen disagrees. Although the changes are being phased in, he says rather than creating a fairer system, they'll isolate those most in need. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News.
Darren McCaffrey in Westminster for us this morning to assess the savings involved in this and the controversy surrounding it. Darren.
Indeed, Eamon. The disability living allowance budget is some £12.6 billion every year. Now, the government are keen to emphasise that that will rise, in fact, to £13 billion by 2015. However, it won't factor in the substantial growth that we've seen in disability living allowance in the last 20 years. It's increased some 35% in the last 10 years. And so, effectively, it means by 2015 there will be less money around. It will be a kind of cap, effectively, on the number of people who can claim it. Now, this is what Esther McVey, who's the Minister for Disabled People, had to say to Sky News within the last 30 minutes.
DLA is very much a benefit of its time. It really looked at physical disabilities. Well, now PIP will take into consideration cognitive, sensory, learning, fluctuating conditions. So really understanding disability as we understand it now.
Now, Eamon, we have to remember that this is only part of a whole wide range of welfare changes that are coming into place in the last week or so. In fact, some of the most substantial that we've seen for 60 years. Also coming in today is a 1% cap on benefit payment rises, which effectively is a real terms cut considering the rate of inflation. And of course, changes to benefits and welfare are always controversial, but the government argued that the system is broken, that it's been abused, and that they need to bring welfare spending under control. But of course, critics accuse the government of hitting those, the most vulnerable, hardest. But we have to remember, Eamon, that this is what the government and the Conservative Party want us to talk about. They want to take this fight on welfare on because they believe they've got public opinion on their side. And with local elections only in a few weeks' time, they believe it will prove a vote winner. As for Labour, critics have said to them that they're slightly behind on this debate. And I think when Ed Miliband launches the local election campaign later on today, you'll hear some tough words on the abuse of welfare. Yes, he'll oppose some of the reforms the government are bringing in, but he'll re-emphasise that Labour don't believe in something for nothing because he realises, just as the government do, that welfare reform will be a major battleground ahead of the next election.
Darren, thank you very much indeed. Your views on this morning, we've been taking those in. Any update on those, Charlotte?
Yeah, we do. Archie's got in touch. He's very worried about how these changes might affect him. He says, if I lose my car, I will be housebound 24/7 with no outlook on life. He says, if my benefits were cut, I wouldn't manage to go to the job centre due to my disabilities. I would lose my money, my house, I would be on the streets. And a lot of people very worried about just the effect that these could be. Dave says, I'm worried, had to appeal to get mine, only received it in January. All the stress made me iller, he says. And Angela making the point, actually, there are no jobs for the able-bodied, she says, let alone those of us with long-term health issues, disabilities, etc.